Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing what might be some of the better value bets today in college basketball for December 5th, 2016. If you're looking for more pick content beyond just what we discussed in this video, you can head on over to stumpthespread.com. To do that, you can just click this big logo here in the top right corner. If you're on desktop, it'll take you right over there. And if you can't do that, I'll also link Stump the Spread in the video description. You can get our daily free plays there, and actually our 1 unit free bet in college basketball has won 5 out of the last 6 days, so that's been pretty nice that we've been on a streak there, trying to get another winner there today. And then also we have premium pick content, which is our highest confidence 5-unit bets, which we've gotten off to a pretty nice start so far this season. And also, if you can click that thumbs up or the subscribe button, it really helps us out. And if you're subscribed to the channel, then you can get notifications of when I release these videos in the future. I usually release these college basketball videos, between midnight Eastern and 2 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in that time frame, after I've written my matchup articles for the day. So I kind of have some of that information still fresh in my head, so that when I go through and talk about these particular matchups, the information is still fairly fresh in my mind. So in this video, I'm just going to be talking about 5 games. Not a lot of action going on in college basketball tonight, as you can see, and that's fairly typical for a Monday, especially in the early part of December. Still working our way through the non-conference slate here. About halfway through the non-conference so far this season. If you're interested in what games I'm going to be discussing, those will be available in the description as well of this video. So to get things started off, we're going to be talking about CS Northridge against St. John's. So CS Northridge, they've had a tough time in their matchups against some of the harder foes that they've faced so far this year. Especially on the road, CS Northridge has lost in blowout fashion on the road against teams like UCLA and Stanford out west. So CS Northridge has to travel across the country here to go to St. John's and play at St. John's home arena. The Red Storm haven't had a lot of success as a program in the last couple years, and this team's probably again going to be finishing at the bottom of the Big East this season. They'll probably be battling in that position with a team like DePaul, perhaps. St. John's has had some results that haven't been so great this year, but in their last outing, the Red Storm looked pretty impressive in a true road game against Tulane, as they went on to put up 95 points and win that particular matchup by 20 points. This is a Red Storm team that remains in rebuild mode, and it's not necessarily going to be about the win-loss record for this time, or for this program in the next couple years, as head coach Mullen tries to get his players into the program and coach them up. So probably within the next couple years we should expect more things out of this program, or else Mullen is probably going to have to move on. But it's still in the phase right now where he's working in his system and trying to get his guys to play his brand of basketball. So it's going to be interesting to see where this program heads in the coming years, especially in the Big East, which is one of the tougher conferences from top to bottom. There's really not many basketball programs in the Big East that you can consistently say on a yearly basis, yeah, we're going to get 2 wins against them come conference play. All right, so based on St. John's recent performance against Tulane, that's probably the reason why this spread has shifted. It opened at -10.5, now it sits at -12.5. CS Northridge, they're traveling across the country. They haven't looked all that great on the road, and then we have St. John's coming off a pretty strong win, so we do like the Red Storm giving the points here as the better bet in this particular matchup and what's going to be the earliest start time for today's action. Alright, so this is one of the more intriguing matchups on the board today. We have Connecticut against Syracuse. Now, neither of these teams have really looked all that impressive so far this season, especially UConn. They have just been downright awful at times. Losing against teams that they've been heavy favorites again, opening up the year, losing back-to-back at home against some mid-majors, and then in their last outing again, the Huskies did not play all that great on the offensive end, going on to beat Boston University by just 2 points, getting that win by a final of 51-49. Connecticut, they have the talent and the pieces to be a relevant factor if they're able to kind of get things back on track before they head into conference play. But based on what we've been seeing from this group, it's just really hard to see that happening. I mean, this UConn squad has been completely inept at times on the offensive end, And it's just going to be interesting to see if this group's able to turn things around in any meaningful way over the next month before they head into action in the American. Kind of surprising that, this was a top 25 team coming into the year. They've been one of the bigger disappointments, and, this is a team that has strong head coaching, so you really, you don't want to peg this necessarily on the coaching staff. At some point, the players just have to perform, and that just hasn't been the case thus far for UConn. But they'll get a chance to test themselves here against a Syracuse squad that's opened up the year 5-2 overall. Their 2 defeats coming in some of their tougher matchups against South Carolina and Wisconsin. Syracuse had a tough time putting up points in those matchups as they went on to lose in rather convincing fashion in those games. Syracuse, they've really leaned on their defense so far this year. Their defense ranks right up as one of the better units in the country thus far. But it's a little concerning that in some of their tougher matchups, their offense has had a difficult time getting things going. So, this is one of those games where points might be coming at a premium, meaning that, the 8.5 points that UConn is getting in this matchup has a little bit more value. This is a little bit tough now that this spread has moved from 7 points to 8.5 points, but we just really have not liked what we've been seeing out of Connecticut through the first month of the regular season. And until this Connecticut squad proves to us that, they're showing progress on the offensive end, we really just don't have a lot of confidence in what they're doing right now. So we like Syracuse giving the points here as the better bet. All right, 3 more matchups I want to talk about, starting with Boise State against Loyola Marymount. Boise State, they're going back-to-back on the road heading into this one. So the other day they played at Evansville, and they fell short in that one against the Purple Aces, and we value this Loyola Marymount squad a little bit higher than that Evansville team. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for Boise State going into the second leg of a back-to-back, and not just going back-to-back on the road, but traveling all across the country, first going over to Evansville in Illinois, and then heading out to the West Coast over in LA to play Loyola Marymount. Fatigue could be an issue for Boise State, and this is also going to be the 9th game of the regular season thus far for Boise State, while Loyola Marymount's just going into their 5th game. Not exactly sure why the Lions have decided to play so few games early on in the year, but they'll play a bit more in December as a result. This Loyola Marymount squad, they added some pretty intriguing pieces, and as a result, the Lions are picked to improve this year in the WCC and maybe even potentially, push their way up into the mid to upper tier of the conference. Obviously, getting ahead of teams like Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and BYU is going to be difficult, but Loyola Marymount finishing in that 4th slot out in the WCC is probably a realistic goal for this squad. This one started with Boise State giving the point. It has shifted over to Loyola Marymount. Early on, I'm guessing a lot of bettors are siding with the Lions here, given their home court advantage, and Boise State going into the second leg of a back-to-back on the road. A lot of the key indicators are lining up for the Lions in this one, and we're siding with that. We think Loyola Marymount has the better betting edge in this one, just giving the 1.5 points. Some of the different books have it at different spots right now, but if it stays in this range, we feel like Loyola Marymount is the better bet in this one. Moving on to Nebraska Omaha against Iowa State. Omaha has played a lot of road games so far this year, and that can have a wearing effect on a team. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects Omaha coming to this one. In their last outing, the Mavericks looked really strong, picking up a road upset win against the Iowa Hawkeyes. That just shows that this Mavericks squad has what it takes to go into a tough road environment against a big conference team and pull out the win, not just build a lead, but hold on to it in the end. It's a pretty impressive result for them. This is an Omaha squad that can really put up a lot of numbers on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is a little bit more porous, but when their offense gets rolling, they can really put up quite a bit of numbers. In this one, don't be surprised if we see both teams kind of push over the 80, 90, and maybe even push towards the 100-point mark, just depending on how fast these teams want to go today. Iowa State, obviously a team that likes to push the pace a bit, but in their last outing, Iowa State was able to be dictated at home by a pretty solid Cincinnati squad. Iowa State was stuck in the mud in that one, really slowing things down in what was a very low-scoring game. Not the kind of style that we're typically seeing out of this Iowa State group, especially on their home court. Iowa State has a tremendous home court advantage, but we're a little bit surprised to see them giving this many points. And as you can see, the spread has shifted down from the 18.5 to the 18 to 17 range. And, some of this has to do with the fact that Omaha has been putting up some pretty strong offensive results this season. And also the Mavericks are coming off a really nice win on the road against Iowa in their last outing. So coming into this one, the Mavericks have to be pretty confident in themselves. Iowa State is coming off recent defeats, but at least they were competitive against really solid competition, losing to Gonzaga and then Cincinnati. So this is going to most likely be a bounce-back win for the Cyclones on their home court, but we do think this Omaha offense has enough output to keep things respectable, and getting the 18 points feels like the better bet here, siding with the Mavericks. And you got to figure at the very least Omaha's going to be able to get enough points to potentially backdoor cover if they're not playing all that well, especially if Iowa State's able to build a significant early lead. You get that situation where once a team builds a 20 or so point lead, they kind of start putting in the second unit, or maybe not giving quite as much effort on the defensive end, and those are going to be the situations where Omaha is going to be able to maybe perhaps push this in the end and get the backdoor cover. But even still, we feel like Omaha should be able to keep things semi-competitive throughout, and going down the stretch, we have confidence that they'll be able to cover this rather large spread as the better value play in this particular matchup. And just one more game we want to talk about for Monday's action, and that's going to be Milwaukee against Montana State. This is a Milwaukee team that's expected to finish more towards the bottom of the horizon this year. Milwaukee has looked really bad at times this year on the offensive side of the ball. Their offense currently ranks near the bottom of the college basketball landscape in D1, and that's a concern for them coming into this matchup, because not only has Montana State really had some impressive results so far this season, but this is a Montana State squad that can really put up a lot of points, and they have really strong offensive weapons that you don't typically see out of a team from the Big Sky. Montana State is picked to finish more in the mid-tier of the Big Sky this season, but we wouldn't be surprised if the Bobcats were able to push their way up more towards the top of the standings, given the fact that they do have some of the better offensive threats in the conference. And in their last outing, Montana State went into a really tough environment on the road against Utah, and even though they went on to lose that one, they showed the confidence that they could compete with a big conference school in a tough environment, and they really showed a lot of moxie, especially towards the end. They could have just given up and threw in the towel, especially when things were getting rough there. Right at the end, they were down by 15, 16, 17, 18 points. And this group, with a minute left, they just kept fighting, full court press, turning the ball over, making big threes, and they went on to make that thing actually somewhat competitive and a little bit scary for Utah right at the end. But they did go on to lose that one by about 8 points. But it got a little bit shaky there at the end for the Utes, which they weren't planning on, especially after they were able to build that fairly significant lead there. But we like what we've been seeing out of this Montana State squad. And as we said, especially on the offensive end, there's a big discrepancy in this matchup. On the offensive side of the ball, Milwaukee ranks as one of the worst offensive teams in the nation, while Montana State has put up numbers that rank them more in the upper tier of college basketball right now. Montana State obviously not quite the same threat on the defensive side of the ball as a lot of teams, but that's just partially because this group likes to play at a faster pace. Milwaukee, they are coming off a loss on the road against Montana, so this is going to be the second leg of a back-to-back road trip for them. Could be a little bit fatigued as a result coming into this one, so we like the Bobcats coming to this one. You can see this spread has been shifting upwards a bit, and that's not surprising, just given the factors that both teams are facing coming into this one. So we like the home team to pull away and separate from Milwaukee as they go on to win and cover this moderate spread here. All right, guys, so that's pretty much going to do it for Monday's action in college basketball. Again, if you're interested in more content beyond just what I talk about in this video, you can head on over to stumpthespread.com and get our daily free play over there, as well as we have premium content across all major American sports. That would be college basketball, college football, the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL. So if you're interested in that, great. And also, if you can click that thumbs up or subscribe, it really helps us out. And that subscribe button, if you click that, you can get notifications of when we release these videos, and you can, kind of get an early edge on the books and kind of see where these spreads are early on in the night before they shift throughout the night and then going into tomorrow's action. So we really recommend that. So thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next college basketball video probably tomorrow. So see you then. Bye.